Yeah, I've been in transit all my career. I started out in Philadelphia, spent 10 years in Dallas working on their light rail projects. And then in 2000, I came to Denver to be RTD's project manager for the T-Rex design build project. And in 2007, I came to work on FasTracks, and I've been the assistant general manager capital programs for the past 3 years.
What I'm going to talk about is our Eagle P3 project in Denver. As Matt said, it's a 36-mile commuter rail line. We decided to do it as a public-private partnership, which was new for RTD, something we had never done before. And it was quite an adventure for us, and I think one that turned out pretty good. The Eagle project is part of RTD's FasTracks program. FasTracks, you can see it's a major expansion primarily of light rail and commuter rail lines in Denver. It's one of the most ambitious programs in the country. It was passed overwhelmingly as a sales tax increase by the voters in the Denver region in 2004. And you can see all the, it's 6 new lines, 3 extensions, a bus rapid transit line, and numerous other projects. The Eagle P3 project, this is the focus of my presentation. You can see a map of the Eagle P3 project. There's really 3 parts to this project. The major one is a 23-mile line from Denver Union Station to Denver International Airport. The second part is our Gold Line to the suburbs of Arvada and Wheat Ridge, and then a third line to South Westminster. This is 36 miles in total. It's it excites me. It's the first new electrified commuter rail system in the country. Most new commuter rail systems start as diesel. We did a life cycle cost analysis and determined that electrification would save money over time. So in 2016, when you come to Denver, you'll be able to take a train from the airport. The Eagle P3 project, as far as we know, it's the first full public-private partnership project in the country for transit. As you heard, much more common on highways, but we're setting new precedent in being the first transit PPP.
Yeah, the Essentia P3 project for rail is very much different than we've ever done before. One of the major things is the concessionaire will operate and maintain the system for 30 years, and their payments are dependent on how well they operate. So they have an inherent need to have a good quality system that they build that will be operable, maintainable, because their payments are dependent on that.
On the risk sharing, we've had a lot of models for this. You heard Matt say we did the T-Rex project, so from the design build area, I think we felt that we had a pretty good basis to get started on risk sharing, and you could see the risk that we put on RTD and what we put on the concession. RTD has the risk to deliver the right-of-way. We also, a key thing was we took the ridership risk, so there's no requirement on the concessionaire that has to meet certain ridership thresholds. RTD took that, and something that was very important to our board, there was a concern if we let the concessionaire fully run things, they would charge too much to ride the system. So by us taking the revenue risk, we'll set the fares and how much people pay to ride the train. Concessionaire, a lot of these risks are typical in design build contracts. They have design risk, construction delays. They have to comply to our environmental documents and our mitigations. And but the key thing is they have to deliver an operable system or else, as I said, they could be penalized quite a bit. And we had a lot of discussions with the proposing teams on risk sharing and who should share what risk. The principal and design build, whoever can manage the risk the best should take that risk on. But sometimes it's not clear cut, and we had some good lively discussions with the proposing teams on what the appropriate level of risk sharing was, and they were very, very valuable to us. Some of the shared risk you can see up there. Some things we took a risk to a certain extent, but then the concessionaire had to take on other risks. And I think it was a really good model for risk sharing. Again, the more projects like this we do, the more we learn and the more we evolve. And again, I think the key thing is we're always willing to listen to the industry. If they could tell us we could save a lot of money by taking on certain risk, then we can decide how important that is to us. So that was a good process. And we went with a best value selection. RTD really likes best value selections where we combine price and technical factors. We do it on a lot of contracts. We started it on T-Rex, had a good experience, and now even on some of our smaller projects we do best value selection. So we did it here. It was one step, and went through. We had a $2.5 million stipend to the non-successful team. That obviously doesn't pay for all of their costs. On T-Rex, it was a $1 million stipend, but recognizing the extra cost of a P3 proposal, we went to $2.5 million.
P3 procurement was very complex. One of the key factors is to get a good team in place. That's people who know about a P3. RTD has not done a P3 before, so we needed to go out and get the expertise. So that included our program management consultant, our financial advisors, and the legal team who had international experience with P3s. That was very important. It was also important for us to get a good team together. This isn't something that can be done on a part-time basis or when people have spare time. We had to dedicate the resources to that P3 to write the RFP, to meet with the proposers and do the evaluation. The other thing I did want to mention is that it was important to get high-level support from management, including the general manager. There were so many times during the procurement when issues came up, it would have been easy to say, this just isn't the right thing for us. But because we were committed all the way to the top, we were able to implement the procurement successfully.
The Eagle procurement team, it was a large team, combination of RTD staff, consultants, and advisors. We had a high-level support from our general manager and management. I'll get into that a little later. That's one of our lessons learned. Our key team members were Jacobs Engineering, who's our overall program management consultant, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan as financial advisors, and Freshfields as legal advisors. Not necessarily inexpensive, but they certainly proved their value. I did want to ask our overall project manager on the P3, Brian Middleton, if he could stand up. Brian's from Jacobs, and he managed the procurement of the project. And unlike a lot of consultants, once they do that, they go leave to somewhere halfway around the world. We're making them stay to actually manage the project. So he can't say things like, well, what idiot wrote this RFP?
The consultants we choose are normally in a design build on the contractor's team, but the designer is a key part of who we select. And I would say any consultant has to show us they have the experience in design build, but also that they're going to look at this in an innovative way. I mean, we're interested in getting the lowest cost, the best product for the lowest cost. And if a consultant can show they're really going to think about this and come up with innovative concepts that can do things better and less expensive, that's definitely going to get our attention.
This is our evaluation. Again, it was a best value selection. These were the 4 factors in the technical criteria, which added up to 40 points. And you'll see we had teams that evaluated each of these. This was the overall organization. We had, I'll get into, show a little more detail here. Technical subcommittee with teams looking at each of those 4 criteria that I talked about. It was chaired by our chief engineer. The financial subcommittee chaired by our chief financial officer with working groups in each of their criteria. We also had stakeholders review the proposals. The stakeholders did not give point scoring, but the evaluation committee listened to their recommendations, and it was almost uncanny that they saw what our team saw. So that was good cooperation, that they took a lot of time to do it. We had a total of about 120 people involved in the evaluation. It's a lot of people, and particularly when you consider how important it was to keep things confidential. We did a good job on that, and these weren't just RTD employees, they were stakeholders, consultants. We made everybody sign a confidentiality agreement, put the fear of God into them if they did say anything, and we were able to keep things confidential. I think when we announced the award, it was completely unknown. RTD is big on lessons learned. We do it as a manner of doing business, and we've been doing it for years. We feel as an organization, things can go right, things can go wrong. In fact, if nothing ever goes wrong, failure is sometimes a good measure of success.
Yeah, RTD has a strong management direction to do lessons learned on our projects. Anything can go wrong on projects. These are big, complex projects. The key thing is to learn the lessons from those projects and not to repeat the same mistakes, and learn what went well and do that. So we did a lessons learned report from our T-Rex project, which was a large design build. We've done one on the FasTracks program, which is actually on the RTD website. And now we've just completed one on the Eagle P3 project. So we do it while it's fresh in everybody's mind. And we don't put these on the shelf. We actually implement what we learned through these lessons learned reports.
So we're under construction now. Things are going well. You can see some of our work. If you come to Denver, you'll see a big pit on the south side of the terminal. They're actually building a hotel for them and a train station for us. That work's going on. We have challenges. The third-party reviews and approvals have quite frankly been a challenge. A lot of the cities do want to see 100% designs. Their definition of what's in the base project and ours often deferred. But I think we've gotten through that. We're working through it, and we're now done design. We have most of our approvals in place, and we're starting construction in a big way. Change orders are much harder in a P3 than a conventional design build. There's lenders, technical advisors, there's lenders, independent engineers. There's a lot. It's just harder to do a change order, and there is some extra cost associated with them. The city and county of Denver wanted some pretty major scope changes, and initially it was pretty contentious, and they said, well, if you don't build and they were particularly grade separations and adding double track. And they said, if you don't do it, you're not going to get a permit. We said, well, we have an agreement with you. And so, well, what's your point? So this went on, and finally our general manager met with the mayor. City and County of Denver is putting in $57 million to add 2 new grade separations, a mile of new double track, enable additional double track, And these are things, these investments are going to be here for 100 years. And while that doesn't fully pay for the cost of those changes, we signed an agreement to move forward. Now, obviously, that's a huge piece of work that we're adding into the middle of the project. And, Brian's got to rush back to Denver to finish negotiating that change order for that. Right-of-way acquisition, we've had some challenges there. That's an RTD risk, but the project does remain on budget and in schedule. And I'm sure a few years from now we'll be doing a lessons learned presentation on the project itself.
Well, every project is different, and the rules of one project don't necessarily apply to others. But we've learned a lot of things over the years. I think having a good team in place, good people who buy into the concept, whether it's design, build, or P3s, and are willing to be flexible and open. There's nothing that can beat a good team. I also think partnerships are a big deal, both within the team itself and ultimately when you get a contractor on board, is to work in a partnering way. Everybody wants to do a good job. There's different ways of doing it, and being open and being able to work with your counterparts, I think, is one of the most critical things on any project. Yeah, the public and the stakeholders in Denver were very interested in this project. It was a high-profile project, and it was the first P3 in the region. So there was a lot of concern. So the best thing we did, we communicated frequently with them. We involved stakeholders in the evaluation process for the proposals. But one unique thing we did, we actually rented a theater, and we had each of the teams make a presentation that was open to the public. And we got a lot of great feedback on that. It gave the public, our board, stakeholders, elected officials, a comfort level with the two teams and what they were proposing.